Today, we're going to unpack the epic 150-year story of the Tata Group. And this is more than just a business story. It's about an empire that didn't just do business in a nation, it pretty much helped build one from the ground up.
Seriously, just stop and think about that for a second. How does one single company manage to become woven into the very fabric of daily life for 1.4 billion people? I mean, from the salt you put on your food to the car you might drive down the street, the Tata name is, well, it's just everywhere.
And look, this isn't just a story about India. You're looking at brands that are household names all over the globe. We're talking Jaguar Land Rover, the iconic Taj Hotels, even Tetley Tea. It's an absolutely massive, incredibly diverse portfolio that covers everything from luxury cars to, IT services.
All right, let's dive into our first section, an empire in everything. So, how did this whole thing even start? Well, to really get a grip on where they are now, we gotta rewind the clock and go back to their super humble beginnings.
Okay, first things first, let's just try to wrap our heads around the scale we're talking about today. The estimated group capital for Tata in 2024? A mind-blowing $403 billion. To put that into perspective, that's more than the entire national debt of a whole bunch of countries. But it did not start this way. Not even close.
And this right here really paints the picture, doesn't it? The whole thing kicked off 156 years ago. The founder, Jamsetji Tata, started with just 21,000 rupees. That's, a few $100 in today's money? And from a simple cotton trading business, it's grown into this global giant with over 100 companies. That journey, from a few thousand rupees to $403 billion, that's the story we're going to dig into. Okay, on to our next section, the founder's four dreams. You see, the foundation of this whole empire really rests on the vision of one man, Jamsetji Tata. And here's the key thing. He wasn't just trying to build a business to make money. He was driven by this incredibly powerful vision for his country, for India.
So, Jamsetji got his start in his family's cotton trading business, right? But by age 29, he was ready to go out on his own. And man, he showed his business smarts right out of the gate. He spots this bankrupt oil mill, buys it for a steal, flips it into a successful cotton mill, and then sells it for a nice profit. And that cash is what funded his next, much bigger move, the Empress Mill.
And this is where you see his sheer genius. See, at the time, Bombay was the undisputed hub for cotton. So when he decides to build his new mill nearly 800 kilometers away in a place called Nagpur, everyone thought he was completely out of his mind. But Jamsetji saw what they couldn't. He saw he'd be closer to the raw cotton, he saw the abundant water supply, and he saw a big pool of affordable labor. It was a totally brilliant, counterintuitive play that paid off in a huge way.
But here's the thing, Jamsetji wasn't just a brilliant strategist, he was a revolutionary employer. I mean, you have to remember, we're talking 150 years ago, and this guy is rolling out things like pensions, medical insurance, and even employee sports days. Think about that. While most factory owners were just trying to squeeze every last drop of labor out of their workers, he was building loyalty. He just got it. If you take care of your people, they'll take care of your company.
So beyond just running his mills, Jamsetji had these four huge dreams for India. And these weren't just vague hopes. They became the guiding mission for the entire Tata Group. He envisioned an India that was self-sufficient, an India built on its own steel, powered by its own energy, educated in its own world-class institutions, and that could even offer its own brand of luxury hospitality to the world.
Which brings us to our next part, forging a nation's steel. You see, this whole vision of a self-reliant India wasn't just talk. It was a real concrete plan. And for Jamsetji, step one had to be creating the absolute backbone of any modern nation, steel. You really have to put yourself in that time period to get this. India was under British rule, and nearly all industrial goods were being imported. Jamsetji's mission was radical. He wanted to build India's own manufacturing power from the ground up. He was dead set on breaking that cycle of dependency.
Now, kind of ironically, the only one of those four huge dreams he actually lived to see completed was the hotel. And wow, what a hotel. The Taj Mahal wasn't just another building. It was a massive statement. It was the very first hotel in India with electricity, American fans, German elevators, the whole 9 yards. There's this famous legend that he built it out of spite after being denied entry to a whites-only British hotel. Whether that's true or not, it was without a doubt his incredible gift to his beloved city, Bombay. The dream of steel, though, that was a much tougher nut to crack.
It took a grueling 17-year search all across the country just to find the right deposits of iron ore. And then, tragically, just as the groundwork was finally starting, Jamsetji passed away in 1904. The mission, all of his incredible dreams, they now rested on the shoulders of his son, Jamsetji Tata. Okay, let's move on to our next chapter. From airlines to automobiles. This is where the story really becomes this multi-generational epic. The founder's torch gets passed on, first to his son Dorabji, and later to JRD Tata. And man, did they run with it.
So Dorabji doesn't just continue the work, he puts his foot on the gas. In just a few years, he makes his father's other 3 dreams a reality. Bam! 1907, Tata Steel is born, Asia's first ever integrated steel plant. Then, 1910, Tata Power, India's first hydroelectric company. And in 1911, the Indian Institute of Science, which becomes a powerhouse for Indian R&D. The foundation his father dreamed of was now solidly in place.
Next up in the lineage is another total visionary, JRD Tata. Now, JRD was a passionate pilot, so what does he do? In 1932, he basically gives India its wings by founding Tata Airlines. But he didn't stop there. He pushes into chemicals, helping India make its own essential materials. He starts Tata Motors to build trucks and engines, literally building the country's transport backbone. And then, and this is incredible, in the 1960s, decades before anyone thought of India as a tech hub, he does something almost prophetic. He starts Tata Consultancy Services, or TCS, India's very first IT company. Okay, so here's a major plot twist in the Tata story. India gains independence in 1947, right? Well, the new government decides to nationalize a bunch of key industries, and that included Tata Airlines. The airline that JRD had poured his heart and soul into building was taken over by the government and renamed, you guessed it, Air India. All right, next up, Tata goes global. See, for decades, Tata was this absolute giant within India. But in the 1990s, a new leader steps up with a totally different vision. It was time to take this Indian powerhouse and unleash it on the world stage.
That leader was Ratan Tata, who became chairman in 1991. His vision was crystal clear: modernize the entire group and prove to the world that made in India could mean best in the world.
And that is exactly what he did. He went on this incredible global shopping spree, making these bold acquisitions that put Indian industry on the map like never before. He snapped up the iconic British brand Tetley Tea. Then he bought the gigantic Anglo-Dutch steel company Chorus. And then, the big one, in a move that stunned the world, he acquired the legendary Jaguar Land Rover from Ford. But even while he was conquering the globe, he never forgot about home, launching the Indica, which was India's first ever completely homegrown car.
So that brings us to our final section, a 150-year legacy. When you just take a step back and look at the whole arc of this story, it's so much more than just a business, right? It's a legacy that is completely intertwined with the history of a nation. Just think about that. 156 years. From a single tiny cotton mill started with the equivalent of a few $100 to a $403 billion global powerhouse. And if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's that this wasn't the work of just one person. It was a mission, a vision that was passed down through generations, with each leader adding their own crucial chapter to the story. And all of this leaves us with one last really big question to chew on. The Tata story, it's a different kind of capitalism, isn't it? One that's rooted in building a nation and having a vision that spans more than just the next quarter. So it makes you wonder, what does it really take to build a legacy that goes beyond just making money? A legacy that actually helps build a nation and last for centuries?